Hello, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Freedom March. You know this voice already. I'm Levin Miller. Thank you so much for joining us, whether it is on 103.5 FM The Beat, or whether it is on channel 225 or channel 112, that's on cable or on Flow TV, or if you're joining us on ILTV Studios on Facebook. Welcome to Freedom March. I'm joined in the studio this afternoon by the spiritual advisor, Bradley Roll. Bradley, good afternoon.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Busy day around the city.
It's hot.
It is still very hot. It is muchos very hotos.
I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you, we're just in May.
Yeah.
It's May.
Yeah.
And officially, summer hasn't even started yet.
Agreed.
So we're like at the tail end of spring.
Do you know when summer starts?
June, sometime in June. Maybe around the first week in June?
No, June 21st. The summer solstice.
What?
Yeah. That's when
So we got that far to go?
first official day of summer.
All right, but I think this weekend they're predicting that there's some sort of a late cold front that may be coming down from the United States.
But I hope the front cold and the back cold, because quite honestly,
Wow.
I really can't take too much more of this.
Summer does not start until June the 21st.
Yeah. That's what it's called, the summer solstice. Did they teach you all that in SAC?
I can't remember. I've been with the SAC more than 40 years, my brother.
Well, I've been under Prince William 24 years, but I remember everything Charles Sanders teach me there.
But there's a big difference between 24 and 40, eh?
Well, it depends. It depends on if you're talking about
How old are you now?
40.
I'm 59, so I got 19 years on you.
Mm-hmm. And it looks
makes
that
a
way.
difference.
Boy, so there's a number of things happening. The political arena, again today, buzzing with excitement. The Prime Minister is declaring a
budget.
surplus.
That's not true.
Surplus.
But that
The
cannot be
Prime
true.
Minister is declaring that he's going to have somewhere, I think about, is it $80 million in surplus, $75 million in surplus in his budget. I will tell you what is interesting to me. They said that capital expenditure is going to be something like $374 million. Well, that's no money. That's
374, 342. 374?
$344 million of it is going to be for capital works or something like that. And then there's the reoccurring budget, blah, blah, blah. And then, but that, I mean, that's not a large amount of money, but it does reduce the deficit spending problem. Anyway, you hear the jingle, don't go anywhere. I'm Levin Miller. Bradley Roll, spiritual advisor, is with me. When we come back on the next side of the break, we've got Holy Scripture for you. And then we dissect today's budget in the House of Assembly. Welcome back to Freedom March. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Levan Miller. Bradley Roll, the spiritual advisor, joins me in studio. Bradley Roll, what does Holy Scripture have to say to us today?
We're going to go to the book of Mark, chapter 7, and pay attention very closely. My good friends are there. We're looking at clean and unclean, or eating with unclean hands, or eating with washed hands, whatever, and what Jesus had to say about that. And at the end of the conversation, Jesus again called the crowd to him and said, listen to me, everyone, and understand this. There's nothing outside a person that can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them. And after he had left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples asked him about this parable. What does this mean? Go ahead, producer. And so Jesus explains, are you so dull? He asks. Don't you see that nothing that enters a person from the outside can defile them? For it does not go into their heart, but into their stomachs, and then out of the body. In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean.
Welcome.
This is in the Red Bible now. You have to read this. And I'm not talking about an RED Bible. We got to correct that, producer, because there's still some folks challenging me. When I say Red Bible, I'm not talking about an RED Bible. I'm talking a Bible with color, but I'm talking a Bible with action. You have to read this in Mark 7, verse number 19. There's some folks out there who tell people it's a sin to eat certain foods. All right? You can't eat the pork chop, you can't eat the conch, you can't eat the crawfish, you can't eat the pork, you can't eat the swine, you can't eat the pork ribs. But Jesus in Mark 7 and 19 declared all foods clean. He went on. What comes out of a person is what defiles them. And here's what it is. Where's 21, producer? Oh, we only stop at 20? All right, we'll deal with the other words tomorrow. Mark 7, 14 to 20. To my friends who out there telling people they can't eat certain foods, you're lying, okay?
You mean the Rastaman them?
You're lying.
You mean the Rastaman them? I don't know what's saying.
You're lying. This passage that I put up just now, Mark 7, what's the producer now? Mark 7, verse number 20? 14, yeah. Jesus declared all foods clean. Mm-hmm. And if Jesus declared it, who are you?
The Rastaman.
Go down by the fish fry and get yourself a steamed pork chop with some white rice, coleslaw, and plantain, eh?
Yeah.
And enjoy it. And then on the side of that, get yourself a collect, because a lot of people believe that it's wrong to drink collect too, and I don't see that in the Bible.
Wow. The Bible says that wine is a mocker and strong drink.
Now, if you allow it to deceive you, you're not wise.
And strong drink is raging.
Yeah.
So
I must admit that
I
must admit that alcohol in excess is a mind-altering thing. It does.
But so is a Bahamian woman.
What do you mean?
A Bahamian woman is a mind-altering thing. You know how much fellas around here are sitting under the auspices of His Majesty right now because his mind was altered by a woman. I actually recall listening to the news several times, and the fella say, you know, he had never gone down this path before, but something about this woman. So sometimes the woman wasting the liquor.
It all depends on the kind of woman you get. Now, there are some bad women out there.
There's no such thing as a bad woman.
Well, let's not do that.
Some of them have bad side effects.
There are some women out there who are not disciplined. And I must admit, as well as some men. So you must choose wisely.
Some have bad side effects. You know, I want to do a study one day as a psychologist. I'm trying to figure out, how does your heart choose? Because what I've found over 40 years is there are some people that leave your life and you can't breathe. And then there are some people that leave. And you know something?
You throw a party?
And even if you don't throw a party, you know, you simply accept that naked came I into this world. And if Negroes have something to do with it, naked is how I shall return. And so you refuse to let yourself be put in one of those positions where you end up with the Macoby. Have you ever had the Macoby?
No, but I had COVID-19, which we understand is on the rise. Maybe one of these days we'll talk about that.
Spiritual advisor, you're not going to get away with that lie that easily on the TV.
I had COVID-19.
You trying to tell me that you live almost to be 100 and you ain't had the McCoby yet?
What is the McCoby? Macaroni and cheese? What you talking about?
The McCoby spiritual advisor. The can't eat, can't sleep, can't breathe, can't think.
Oh, yeah. I had it once, yeah, man. Yeah,
well, you only should have that once. You think you should have the McCoby more than once?
Apparently, when you get that, and if you get over the McCoby, you don't get it again.
You shouldn't get it again. But I know one fella who had the McCoby 3 times.
What?
Yeah. He say he had it so bad he tried to drown himself, except for he hand wouldn't keep holding his head.
Yeah, I fell in love with a young lady at the age of 17.
That's not a bad time. I recommend having the McCoby at 25. I don't really recommend the McCoby past 25. Past 25, the McCoby could be dangerous. So I don't recommend it.
Yeah, the first real love is break your heart, boy. I tell you, that's not something.
Sometimes that don't even be the first real one. Sometimes you find.
It's always been the first real one. Like, you
sometimes you find a woman and nobody could cook split pea soup like her, and all you say to yourself is, "My God, that pork in that split pea soup was good pork." And you could tell that she's obviously getting a pork from somewhere else, unlike any other pork in any other split pea soup you've ever had. And you say, I wonder if this is regular ham. And for some reason, the pork in her soup is juicier, it is softer, it is more tender. And as you eat it, you say, boy, I'm so happy that she put this piece of pork inside here. And next thing you know, when she tell you you can't have no more her split pea soup, you just lose it. And that's how you end up with the McCoby.
Yeah, but don't lose it. Young man, don't lose it. It isn't worth it. The mind is a terrible thing to lose. So.
Yeah.
Lose everything else in your life. You can lose your house, you can lose your car, you can lose all the money in your bank account. You can always get those things back. But when it comes to your mind, because I've seen a lot of fellas walking around here, and they've had some issues with McCoby.
As a matter of fact, I know one or two fellas who had the McCoby so bad that they ended up with what I have, and I'm not a medical doctor, but if I was, this is what I would refer to it as. They ended up with latent McCoby syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what that is? That's when the McCoby just flare up. Like, you know, so nowadays row with the woman and things like that. And it's because every time they think about not being able to have the split pea soup with the pork in it, they just be sad all over again. So you really shouldn't get the McCoby twice. I just taught you all something.
Once is good enough.
Yeah. Try to get it by 25. Don't fool around with having the McCoby at 40 because you should lose your hair. You see? Don't fool with that. All right? I do want to open the lines kind of early, spiritual advisor. I think we might be expecting some guests. But I want to know, what are people thinking about the budget that they heard today? What do you think about it?
It was a presentation, right?
Yeah. It's 2 hours of a presentation.
Yeah. So whenever you hear the presentation, the budget, for those who are affected, well, you always ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
W-I-I-F-M. Always ask that question.
Hold on, break it down for me.
W-I-I-F-M.
Translate.
What's in it for me?
Well, what is in it for you, spiritual advisor?
I know that they're planning on reducing by September the 1st on some certain...
On medication?
Yeah. I'm on medication.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for me.
Now, you know they don't give you discount on those kind of medication, eh?
Well, this one is to keep my pressure down. And so my Netafine... What am I on? I'm on Netafine.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, I'm on 5 milligrams, a low dose, but 1 pack of Netafine now is over $37.
Mm-hmm.
1 month supply.
Yeah.
So if I get a good break on that, that's fine. So that's one thing that's good for me.
Okay. And so 5% of $30 should be like $1.50.
Yes. Yeah.
10% is $3.
Yeah.
5%.
So, but $1, yeah. So
you save $1.50.
I save something.
Put up the flyer. Let's see what the Prime Minister has promised in his speech today, as he communicated. I mean, they talk the Prime Minister more dry today in Parliament. I say, brave like he need to take a little break. This 2 hours is plenty talking. Notwithstanding that, though, he was very happy to continue to ring the bell of success, touting his party's agenda and how they've been able to rescue us from the dark days of the menace COVID-19 Hurricane Dorian era. And here's what they say they have been able to accomplish. The lowest unemployment since 2008. Free breakfast in the primary schools. And I want to talk about that one, spiritual, so we're going to come back to that. Extra support for farmers and food security. I see Jomo Campbell. Jomo Campbell is saying that 21% increase in funding and production in the Ministry of Agriculture through bold initiatives and strategic partnerships. I tell you, that Jomo don't mess around. Duty slash on butane costs for homes, which is another one I don't really understand. VAT 5% on health products, fair taxes for the corporate giants, more police officers. I see there's going to be some funding in the police budget. I saw something about something in the budget to build a perimeter wall around Coral Harbor, and I'm not really sure how that's supposed to work. Because Coral Harbor on a marina, why would you build a wall around it?
A seawall.
A what? No, they just put up a whole lagoon, break water. I don't understand that one.
That would make sense.
What?
Remember the last time the ocean came up and all of Coral Harbor was flooded?
Because it by a marina. Why would you build a wall around it?
I don't know. Okay.
Anyway, so then they're also going to do ending loopholes in the cruise ports. I'm not really sure what that means. New funding for the Dundas Center. That's actually taking place right now. Lower duty on home essentials. I see there's going to be one bunch of home appliances that are set to be affected by the reduction in tariffs. Lower new funding, for fire trucks. So there you have it, spiritual advisor. We're going to get new fire trucks. And
just make sure they're
interestingly enough, I see them repairing 2 fire trucks in South Beach at the South Beach police station now. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but one looked kind of new. The other one looked kind of...
Just make sure they're installing the shift now.
I already tell you how to fix that. And $250 million in new road infrastructural upgrades. And like I said, the Prime Minister is saying that for the first time since independence, we have a budget with a surplus, which is actually fantastic. Unbelievable, but fantastic. And I'll tell you why it is unbelievable. Can I tell you? As somebody that follows politics, I'm not necessarily interested in hearing about surpluses because small developing island nations are like middle income entrepreneurs. Does that make sense when I say it? So, an entrepreneur telling me he has $1 million in the bank, unless he is a conglomerate or a part of like a group of companies, I'm not very much impressed by that, because what small developing island nations do is wherever there is a surplus, they simply push it towards capital investment. So that, because they're growing. Am I making sense?
Okay.
So you can't tell me I have $300 million sitting in the bank, but we build a clinic that could have been built in Miguana, albeit 12 people there. Or you can't tell me $300 million in the bank, but we ain't buy the Defense Force some new boats. Or you can't say I have $300 million, because the $300 million in the bank is not really anything to celebrate. The thing that you celebrate as a small developing island nation, or state, whatever they want to call them, is that you're able to keep the credit rating of your country at a point where you're able to pay your debt serviced on time and without any penalties, so that the international monetary lending institutions want to lend you more money to do more development. So it's a nice talking point. I mean, it's certainly historic. I will give them that. I want to also say this, because I'm actually somebody that is a proponent of when the sheriff goes, so should the deputy, right? I strongly believe that.
That doesn't make sense.
What are you talking about?
When the sheriff go to deputy take his place.
No, if you're going, I have to be very careful with my metaphoric analogies, because metaphors offend you all. But if the sheriff is gone, then you must throw the deputy out with him. Because they sat in the same room and thought about the same things. But I have to admit that on 2 occasions now, in the history of my own life, I've seen a deputy replace the sheriff and has done a demonstrably better job than the person they would have deputy.
Well, because if you shoot the sheriff, doesn't mean you have to shoot the deputy.
Can't say the word shoot. Shoot is a case word on this show. Don't use it. All right? Do you remember in the case of Anthony Ferguson and who was he the deputy to? Was it Mr. Greenslade? Yes, the answer is yes.
Anthony Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson, Commissioner of Police.
Okay.
So he was the deputy to Ellison Greenslade, who, in my view, miserably failed as a commissioner. And then, when Tony Ferguson became commissioner, remember the numbers was sparkling and wonderful, and police were reinvigorated and were fresh again towards the fight against crime. So much so that Pookie them ain't kill 100 under Tony Ferguson no year. Tony Ferguson and Solly Cash was the best two-man team
Really?
I have ever seen. Yeah,
So,
check the
Green Slate
numbers.
failed.
Check the numbers.
Who was Green Slate? Oh, you said Fergie. All right.
Yeah, right? And then Tony Ferguson became commissioner, and Solly Cash was his chief of crime. And go check the numbers. Pookie them couldn't kill 100 no matter how hard they tried. Yeah? And so now we're seeing Philip Davis, the deputy to former Prime Minister Perry Gladstone Christie, who I will admit has had mammoth challenges during his tenure as Prime Minister. The Sarkis's Marillion debacle in itself was enough to busy a Prime Minister, right? And of course, Christie, through poor timing, missed several crucial windows that could have landed him the election. You remember when Christie did the convention in the Malaya and they shoot the camera on him coming from the house where he get ready and put on his cufflink? If Christie had snapped the election right after that convention, he'd be home free. But they waited. And that during the waiting period, Sarkis moved the Chapter 11 on them. That busied his entire cabinet. Then, of course, Shane Gibson them started casing out Sarkis were really the newspaper. And then that didn't do very well for other investors. And then it was just one thing that spiraled into another thing. And then, of course, the Free National Movement was able to say, see, look, I tell you all they corrupt and can't handle government. And so, of course, Christie was tossed out of government. But Mr. Davis, who was the deputy to Mr. Christie, for whatever it is worth, has pretty much led a scandal-free 4 years.
Who?
A scandal-free 4 years. Name me one major government scandal.
Wow.
Name me one major government scandal.
The Davis administration
has predominantly led a scandal-free 4 years. Name me one. Just name me anyone.
Okay.
Sylvanus Petty.
I'm glad you feel that way.
Sylvanus Petty gave his daughter the contract. Brave cut his head off immediately. And I telling you now, the only reason he's still the deputy speaker is because Brave can't touch that. Other than that, trust me when I tell you, he would be with the Crows, right? And then there was the boy in Abaco. But I don't think you could blame a political party for what a man does with his other P words. And that's all I say. But he was acquitted in the court of law, so there was no need to cut his head over for that. Largely what I'm saying is, politically, they've been scandal-free. We're going to talk about that in the budget some more when we get back on the next side of the break. I'm Leavin Miller. You're on 103.5 FM The Beat. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This segment of Freedom March is brought to you by Modernistic Garden and Pet Supply. For top quality dog food, shop online at modernisticgarden.com or visit our Palmdale, Carmichael, and Mullet Marathon locations today.
Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back to Freedom March. I'm Levan Miller. You're listening to us on 103.5 The Beat or 224-112. Go tell your friends. That's what that's for. Go call on the phone to your friends. Tell them we're here. They should stop doing that thing and come here with us. Spiritual advisor.
Are your dogs hungry and tired of low-quality food? Give them the best at Modernistic. We carry all the top brands. Taste of the Wild, Diamond Naturals, Victor, and Nookshuk at the lowest price in town. If you're on a budget, we've got 50-pound bags down to just $49. And for limited time, buy any large bag of dog food and get a $10 coupon redeemable on select dog toys and treats. And if you can't make it, then shop online at www.modernisticgarden.com and we'll deliver right to your door. Your pet deserves quality, your wallet deserves savings. Shop in store or shop online today. Hurry, offer won't last. Thank you, producer.
Thank you, spiritual advisor. And so, again, today, a big day, a budget day. Put up the other clip. Let's see what else the Prime Minister is claiming to do. And the lines are open, by the way, so you can feel free to call me because I want to hear, what you all are talking about with the budget. I see the FNM troll room has began spin against this budget. And what I will say is, I'm not sure if this could be enough. So basically what the FNM is contending is that the PLP put VAT on items and then take the VAT and slash it, which I think is brilliant, right? Because sometimes you might offer a discount that you cannot afford. And then, right, you look at the discount that you've offered, you hike the price back up a little bit, so that when you offer a new discount, you could actually give people something at a value less than the value that it's worth, but certainly not at a value so low that you can't afford to provide it. That makes perfect sense to me. No?
Well, so the as effective September 1st, these are some interesting items, I guess. Mm-hmm. So the VAT will be reduced to 5% on a range of products that include baby diapers, depends, feminine hygiene products, prescription and non-prescription drugs, including medications for those with chronic conditions, medical and dental supplies such as needles, blood pressure medicines, there you go, lancets, dental cements and other dental fillings, yes. Other medical and therapeutic items such as cell therapy products. Okay. All right, that's
seems reasonable. I like it.
That's interesting.
And you don't have to worry about paying 12% on the other things in the store when you go to buy these things.
Now, under the Amendment VAT Act, the Davis administration is also extending VAT relief on building materials for religious institutions. So, Prime Minister, you know what's going to happen now, right?
All them properties
on
that
Marshall Road,
yeah,
you must have got 13 different church buildings all lined up in a row.
Right.
So maybe another 15 could come.
No, they could renovate them because one of them look like Tingham.
These church buildings popping up all over.
But you don't get in that. We happy that
we're supposed to be one,
We happy that they could go build a church. That way they could come with the shopping plazas.
But look at this.
Because if they come with the shopping plazas, rent could go back down.
Well, but look at this now. On Marshall Road, you have 13 different church buildings, right? All line up. Now we all say we're Christians. We all got the same red Bible. We all serve the same God. We all believe in the same heaven and hell. Why we can't come together?
Because we all don't have the same offering.
But that isn't what the Bible is teaching.
So you don't worry about that. That's what we worry
Jesus
about.
prayed for unity among all of his
Jesus
disciples.
also reached in the fish mode and get money, and my pastor don't have
but that has not. But so okay. So you're gonna reduce the VAT on building supplies. So we're gonna see more church buildings being erected.
That also means that if I registered my house as Bedside Missionary Baptist Church, I'd be able to actually.
And you got plenty of them.
Yeah, I'd be able to, and I attended regularly every Sunday, right? I would be able
Even
to
though the scripture says, "Do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together."
And I assemble here with you every day. You know, one of the brothers.
Well, we're here on Freedom March. Freedom March is not a church.
Well, I am the church, and you are the church. So when we bring these two churches together, isn't that an assembly?
But we don't break bread. We talk more
I watch
politics.
you eat hot dog over here every single time I come.
We talk about unleavened bread. Because this cannot be the church. We all know that. But that's interesting that they're going to reduce the VAT on buildings.
What else they reducing the VAT on?
They're also going to probably do some on construction materials for family islands.
Mm-hmm.
I would embrace that. You know, at least for me, it's important. We got a project to do in the summer, so that's a welcome.
What else?
Sorry, I lost the amount. What else is happening?
Mm-hmm.
So in this budget, we will hear from you. I mean, is this an election budget?
No. And I want to know, Michael Alquidas, if you have a surplus, this ain't a good time to reduce the prime so that people could feel the surplus in the economy. I just want to ask. They're the kind of questions I ask. Plus, this school feeding breakfast program. I see the Prime Minister beat his chest about it as often as he gets an opportunity, right? Let me tell you why I don't like these kind of programs, spiritually. There is no way to ward off abuse. Am I making sense to you? So let's just say me, a middle income earner, have my 2 children. I got grocery pile up in my house. But since I know the school cooking grocery, I carry my child to school to go get breakfast. Isn't that abuse? How do we safeguard these things from abuse? Or do we simply not care about the abuse?
I don't know if the breakfast incentive is being abused. I can tell you Bahamians have a lot of pride. For those who really, really can't afford it, it's a welcome for them.
Yes.
Parents who know that their kids could afford breakfast, I don't think they abuse it. But of course, there are some parents who don't have the time to make breakfast, and I guess they'll say, listen, doesn't the school provide breakfast? Hey.
I don't know. I kind of like things that I could get a better metric on. I don't really know how giving people grits and tuna in the morning. I get it. People learn better when they eat.
Of course they do.
I sleep better when I eat. I don't be interested in learning nothing once I didn't eat. But, I mean, of course, they have the science behind it. I'm just wondering, like, how do we ensure that we're getting dollar for value? Or value for dollar?
The school, I think the school has some things in place where they can actually safeguard that. So, but what is interesting, along with that, the government this has to be an election. Sorry, forgive me. This has to be an election budget.
It's not.
The government is removing the customs duty on the following items: refractory cement, mortars, and concrete, and similar compositions, copper fittings, screws, nuts and bolts. Further, this duty on the following items is being reduced: cleaning products, electric or battery-operated shavers. Okay. Juice extractors, truck weighing 20 tons and above.
They're reducing the duty on it?
Yeah. And filters and all kinds, okay. From water to air conditioning filters. Okay. Okay, interesting.
Chester Cooper was also on the news today. And I tell people, I love the way that somehow Chester Cooper, believe it or not, is able to, no matter what his successes are, he's able to contour the language so that you always glorify his boss. Do you notice that about him? No matter, because they had asked him, well, Chester, tourism is doing fantastically well. How do you feel about tourism driving the engine behind the national recovery? And you know what he did? He somehow turned that interview about his boss. Let's see what Chester Cooper had to say in the interview today.
This is truly an exciting day. There's a lot to unpack, but it's more than about the numbers. It's about impacting people, creating opportunities for people. So you're going to hear a lot over the course of the next week or so about how we upskill, how we create more opportunities, how we get people in better paying jobs, how we get the increase really in income so that people can have more affordability in the economy. We've done great work. We're optimistic about the future. We recognize, though, that we do have more to do and more to be done still, and we have to touch more people. We have to ensure that people are feeling the progress from the $12 billion of foreign direct investments, from the 12 million tourists that's going to come to the Bahamas this year. Right. We want to ensure that every Bahamian is participating, owning, and feeling the economy that we're working so hard to create.
And like I said, never takes credit for any of it. Somehow, if they told him, Chester Cooper, what a wonderful job you're doing, you found the cure for common cancer, he would say, well, you know, the PLP has committed to doing all of the things that it could under the leadership of Philip Davis. We continue to try as hard as we can, as often as we can, on every occasion that we are offered to do the things that Prime Minister Davis has instructed us to do, because that's what leaders do. And there's no need for you to say anything about how great I was. Let's just talk about the Prime Minister, because he's actually the one that is great. And I'm just so happy to have an opportunity to serve in his cabinet. Oh, and by the way, the success that you said was happening in my ministry, I'm so happy that you have realized that that is happening in my ministry. But while we're talking about this, I would also like to point that my ministry only exists because the Prime Minister has allowed it to exist, and he's given me an incredible team of people. And because of his guidance on that ministry and the incredible team of people, we've been able to have the kind of successes that the Prime Minister has predicted that we would have. I love that about Chester Cooper. Like, you are not getting him to upstage his boss on any, okay, he's not taking responsibility for any success. All of the success, he wants you to make sure you give it to Philip Davis. I like that. I like that about Chester Cooper. What do you think?
I guess so. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
I think that's a good way to make sure you keep your job very, very, very yeah. Give up the phone lines. Let's talk to the people and see what they think about the budget. You know what I think about it, but who knows? Let's see if they think something different.
323-7775 is the number to call. 698-0775 and 698-0776. We open the lines very early.
Yeah. I want to talk to the people about the budget. The budget affects them.
Indeed. 698-0775 and 698-0776. Welcome to Freedom March. Call your life. Are you there, caller?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, Freedom March. Special Advisor, Brother Miller.
Hey.
The budget is going to help me a lot.
Okay.
I am a diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
I take insulin twice a day.
Oh, wow.
And I was paying up to $49 for Atlantis, which could last me a little over 3 weeks.
Okay.
So with that now, I maybe could get 2 a time now.
Okay.
I appreciate that, but let me say something about the churches.
Mm-hmm.
Or I hear you talk about all them churches around by you.
Yeah.
But listen to me, sir. The churches are now being exposed. Mount Tabor had the split. Zion on Yamacraw, you know what I mean? Zion here on Zion Boulevard had the switch. Ross Davis stores, Pastor Ross Davis had the switch. Helen Mark Fidos now having a split.
Switch or split? What is it?
A split.
Okay,
split.
okay. A schism.
God is now bringing them to an open shame. I don't want to get preachy. He promises it in the last days.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Watch it.
All right. Let's take another call. I don't particularly share that view. As a matter of fact, I think if I could lend my opinion to it, I think that these are simply things that could have been magnificent things. I think sometimes youthful tenacity without guidance can destroy something that has the potential to be futuristically great. And
I think he has a point, though.
I don't. I disagree with him.
Well, let's look at it, and this is reality. And we always promote this Red Bible concept here on Freedom March because you get the truth here about what the Scripture's teaching. There is no passage in the Bible that actually qualifies a woman to be a pastor. You will never find it anywhere in the Bible.
Okay.
And so these churches that are led by women who claim to be pastors, they're in error. And that's why you end up.
But if she has a man that is a bishop,
it
she can
doesn't
serve
matter.
under his authority.
The Bible has not. The Bible says nothing of that. All that stuff is made up. I tell you that the average person don't have a read Bible.
Okay.
All right, and that's why we end up with these problems.
I think that
there's nothing in the Bible that qualifies for women to be a
all of
pastor.
the
It
churches
isn't
that
there.
we just talked about are wonderful.
So now I can
edifices
understand
that have
why
done
that church was
magnificent work over the course of the years that try to, you know what is crazy, right? Because in the Bahamas, we always say, oh, you got to give young people a chance. You got to make space for new vision. You got to make space for insightfulness, right? And then when somebody says, hey, I feel like I'm an old man, I want to make some space. Bahamians still turn around and say, oh, he only want to make space because he going to go do this thing. Or it doesn't matter what he's going to do. You say, I need to make space. I am making space. And you have a problem with that. Isn't that strange?
Let's take another call so we can bring our guests on.
Okay.
Producer, put the camera on.
Let's take another call. Hello, caller. Welcome to Freedom March.
Welcome to Freedom March. Call you live.
Hello?
Hey,
Good day. Is this Freedom March?
it is.
So, what do you all think about the Haitians in Nassau?
What I think about the what in Nassau?
The Haitians.
What about them?
Don't you think they start proud Nassau?
If I think they stop, can I ask you a question? Are you somebody old enough to be of breeding age?
Yes.
Have you bred?
Yes.
How many times did you breed?
How many times?
Huh?
You accept
How many times did you breed?
3 times.
Well, why are you letting them outbreed you? You know you don't need an application form to create new Bahamians, right?
Right.
All you
Right.
have to do, you could go tonight. I want to give you a special mandate tonight. You don't let the Haitians outdo you.
Right.
You go tonight and create you a brand new Bahamian.
You?
Huh?
So do you let them outdo you?
Say it one more time. Do I let them?
Do you let them outdo you?
Man, they got me in the bag. I guess I only breed twice, and I have one bunch of breeding left to do. I even got to catch you up and all. So you know what? You know what I might do for you tonight? I might go home and make 2 Bahamians.
2.
Yeah, because my daddy is a twin, you know, so I that good.
Oh.
And if I run hot, if I heat up, you never know what could happen.
Oh.
But I want to invite you to go check this, right? If you check the information, the statistical information, in 1980, I think was the year, Haitian women were having between 5 and 7 children, or women of Haitian origin. Women of Bahamian origin were having 5 to 7 children, right?
Hold on, so they front good.
Well, the front or the back, I ain't sure, but listen to what I'm saying. The only thing that has happened from 1980 to now is that Bahamian women have reduced the amount of children that they've had. What has been shown is that foreign women that live in the Bahamas have maintained the same amount of children.
The immigrants more sexual active.
I only responsible for the sex what happening by my house, so I can't tell you. This person said they got 3 children. How they could be a child?
How old are you, caller?
Anyway, so caller, if you are of breeding age, you could go home tonight and make yourself a new Bahamian. All right, let's take another call. Well, actually, no. Let me introduce my guest. My guest is here. They moved them around so quickly. He's Zane Lightbourne for sure. He's the member of parliament for Yamacraw. Again, right? Good. And he's the Minister of State for
the environment.
The environment. See, I knew that.
Yes.
I knew that. Welcome to Freedom March.
Thank you for having me.
Nice tie, by the way.
Yes, thank you very much. Budget day, blue.
Yeah. Is that a rule? Budget
No,
day blue?
it's just a thing.
Yeah. All right. So I see there's any number of things that the Prime Minister mentioned today inside the Parliament. Of course, most noted is the claim of a budget that offers a surplus. First time in 51 years.
Yes.
To my mind, surpluses are not as important in developing island nations as in, big countries because developing island nations are developing. But so translate for the Bahamian people the benefits of being in a position where your budget now offers a surplus.
Well, I think that it's important to understand when given a mandate of governance, there are expectations, and one of the main expectations that the country has that sets a tone is how they handle money.
Sure.
And that's why the opposition usually attack on how you're spending.
Sure.
And so when you can show that you have a responsible administration that spends money in a right way, where they can not only balance a budget or the money that you've given to them for their mandate, that they're able to manage that in a way that they can balance where they don't have to do a bunch of borrowing on the backs of the people. And therefore they can balance responsible governance with doing some of the innovative things that we've been doing. And I think that that's very important to have that message. There's a community out there that is heavy on finance and economics, including the international community that watches how you're able to manage funds that cause you to attract investors and opportunities for your people. So I think that is the main reason. That message is really for everybody, but in particular, there are people who, there's that community that always watch. What are you doing with the money that you've been given?
They say that I have to learn how to say things to common people, right? So I always refer to the most common guy that I know, my daddy, right?
Right.
He had a 9th grade education. It doesn't get more common than that.
I think my mom too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's how, as far as they used to go.
I don't know, but
but
my daddy always said this thing that it is okay to have growing grass. So it's okay to have growing green grass, unless of course you have dead cows, because then you can't brag about how good your grass growing.
Right.
Right. So you have to figure out a way how to grow grass, but not let cows die.
Yes.
Right. And I see those from the side opposite are saying things like, is a surplus budget translating in the homes of Bahamians? How are Bahamians responding to feeling? What do they see? Of course, you know, in the last couple of weeks, we've had fire after fire after fire. So you come out in May and say, we've got a surplus.
Yeah.
But the community says, we don't have fire trucks, though. Or we've got a surplus budget. But people would say, yeah, but our ambulance responses are 2 hours because we don't have sufficient manpower or proper equipment, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
From this position as the government, how do you maneuver with this, shiny budget, this is a shiny budget, into the things that people kind of feel at the nut and bolt level?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. So this budget is about expanding opportunities, using what we have accomplished economically to expand opportunities.
Sure.
Because we have to learn how to walk and chew gum at the same time, as the saying goes. The people who are on the ground level that our critics would suggest are not feeling the budget. These are the people that are affected by some of our reforms, like energy reform. This is what, beside your mortgage or rent, this is probably the next largest bill or expense in your finances. We have managed to address energy reform in a way that we are on the trajectory. We have already begun to decrease. We have hundreds of thousands of persons who are seeing a decrease in their light bill. All right. At this time last year, that wasn't the case. So we are facing the tough issues. The issues of the neglect in our, whether it's fire services or ambulances or any of those transport, those are legacy issues that I can say that we have been given a mandate to face head on. We don't run away from it. We realize needs and we address needs, find the best way to do it in a responsible way. And so for persons who just look for what we haven't addressed, we know that we can't do everything in overnight.
Correct.
And sometimes not even in one term, realistically.
Right.
And so we address these things as instead of band-aid approach, as the Prime Minister put it, as things that we're going to fix in terms of how we manage money, how we manage the public service, how we invest in our people, not only the workers in the public service to make their work more efficient by giving them the tools they need, how we're going to invest in training, and how we're going to cause those opportunities that we have presented to the Bahamian people to be expanded to more people, to the Family Island people, to the younger persons who jobs out there, but they're not accessing the jobs.
Sure.
So we have to make sure that they are educated, have certification. This budget speaks to empowering Bahamians through equipping them with the ability to access what we boast about.
I want to talk to you about equipping young Bahamians to access the opportunities, because one of the things that did stand out to me in the Prime Minister's communication was the investment in maritime training, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to give him a round of applause for that. It's brilliant if you ask me.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, right, you see things like the detractors or people that are not as happy with this budget saying, well, sure, they could reduce VAT to 5% because they took it to 10%, and VAT was 0% on some of the things that they're now offering us at 5%. What do you say to those people that still don't think that is deep in the bag enough to have the slashing on VAT on things like medicines and feminine products and those kinds of things? To the people that said, yeah, I was paying 0% before you all put it to 10, so you all bringing it back to 5 now. You know, what do you say to those people?
And that's another good question. And I can tell you that you have experience doing this, right? So we have a global atmosphere that control a lot of what we do in terms of what we eat and everything as a part of our way of life, right? And we have to make sure that those that atmosphere doesn't negatively affect us at every little shake that happens. So what we've been doing is making sure that we bring down the cost of living.
We got to go to the break. When we come back, Zane Lightbourne is my guest. Don't go anywhere. The phone lines are open. I'm not letting them leave here unless you take at least 3 of them. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Freedom March on 103.5 FM The Beat. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Freedom March. Thank you for staying with us through the break. I'm joined in the studio by Zane Lightbourne, and I want to tell you what I told him off the break. if you throw this suit in the garbage, I got one tailor that could take about 7 inches. He say 6'5.5". That could be a foot of a cloth. I could be able to make a shape for spiritual advisor if I cut the legs off this pants. But Zane Lightbourne joins me in the studio, Minister of State for the Environment, who's doing a pretty decent job, I might add. Thank you for joining us here on Freedom March.
Thank you.
All right, so we were talking about the reduction in VAT. Finish that point for us. What the 5% represents. I know you were talking about internationally, but just domestically, to the people that say, you know, they're not sure if the trade-off is equivalent. What would you say to them that lets them know that the 10% that happened, now the reduction to 5%, is either better in your mind or worse than the 12% that once existed?
It's way better than the 12%. And the math is, it's amazing that anyone would suggest that 12% VAT is better than 10% VAT or even 5% VAT. When we introduced VAT, when the Christie administration introduced VAT, that was a consultation that was done with the entire country. I know because I was part of the labor movement at the time.
Right.
And the country agreed that we needed to get away from customs duties.
Right.
That we were going to eliminate customs on some things and introduce VAT because customs duties was the #1 revenue generator for the country.
Right.
When we introduced VAT, we introduced it at 7.5%.
Right.
Where some persons criticized that it wasn't enough.
Right.
And then you had some people who criticized it because it was on everything. And it is kind of, when you, depending on who you talk to, it's kind of regressive because you have people who they believe should be paying more in taxes because they earn more, should be paying a higher percentage or a higher amount, basically a percentage of what they make. So introducing VAT and then having it increased to 12%. And that came after the opposition promised that VAT was bad and they were going to eliminate VAT, right? They came and they put it up to 12%, and they saw that it didn't do what they expected, right? They had one good year, as I could recall, in 2019 that they boast about.
Was that the $700 million, I think it was?
And I'm not sure the exact sure of the numbers, but when they talk about target and not hitting the targets, they can't talk. But this is about us.
Right.
As we bring relief, before the Prime Minister said today, before the President of the United States even suggested these, well, before he's in place, we will bring relief to people by reducing, right off the bat, we reduce VAT to 10% across the board.
Right.
Some people in the international community said it couldn't be done.
Right.
The opposition said it couldn't be done. They told the people that we were swinging them. That's pretty much what they said. It's not going to be done. Well, we did it. Despite how we met the economy on a fiscal cliff, things very bad, we were able to decrease VAT.
Sure.
And the Prime Minister said, this is further decreases that's coming. We also raised minimum wage. We raised the amount of money given to seniors. We negotiated record number and still negotiating record levels of labor agreements and paying those persons in raises, teachers, nurses, and all the civil servants. I mean, this is something that's unprecedented. So everything that we have done to bring relief, including dropping the cost of energy, looking at ways to reducing the cost of food items, and decreasing VAT across the board, further decreasing VAT on all food across the board, and now on more items, it shows a steady progress in a government that's thinking and working. Because the critics can talk. We expect criticism. We do listen. And we go and we sit down, we huddle, we listen to experts, and we ourselves are all talented in some area that are able to lend our voices because we represent people.
Sure.
And with the team that has been put together for us to represent the Bahamian people along with the hardworking staff at the Ministry of Finance and these other ministries, we are able to look at things that we can accomplish, and the Prime Minister is bold enough to take them on and for us to achieve them. And he's given us a very strict mandate. Look, we're going to be bold and responsible.
Sure.
We can't be distracted by the naysayers, by the critics. We can listen to what they have to say, take value out of constructive criticism, and move forward, and we're moving the country forward.
Some
and
people,
hence, a balanced budget.
Some people might say, though, that the PLP does what I would refer to as a cap and hand trick, right? So they move the things around quickly, and sometimes you're not really sure if you got something, right? So they say the PLP increased the minimum wage, but then there was the 1.5% hike in NIB. And if the salary increases, then so does my contribution to NIB. Then did I in fact get a raise in salary? Or you say, well, fine, you reduce the value-added tax on on, let's just say, cooked foods. But then there are many things on the tariff side that went up. And so when you consider the cost of getting the meal on the table, even if I pay a reduction in the VAT on the raw food, did I in fact get a trade-off? How do you address those people that would say that, man, the PLP look like every time they give me something, they take something now?
In the simplest form, right? If I tell you that I can give you $60, or let's say $50, right? But out of that $50, the cost of running this operation, you're going to have to pay $2 back to the house to run this operation, right? Would you think that that's a good deal?
So I end up with $48.
Right.
Nothing at all is never a good option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it isn't that the government's taking anything back from you, right? NIB is an operation that gives a benefit to Bahamians. So it's not considered, for a long time, I wrestled with a conversation about, is it a tax? Well, in essence, you're paying it to somebody or to an organization, so it feels like a tax. But your returns on that, you're receiving benefits from this. This is a social safety net.
Correct.
And so NIB shouldn't be treated as you're taking money from me. Right. It's your investment in your future, in your children's future, in your seniors' future. And this is something that we have to kind of train our train our people. You know, I'm big on education. Right. And it's no gimmicks. It's just straightforward. Look at the data. Look at the numbers. Because I asked, when I did a chart in a House Assembly, I did a chart showing how much we increased wages and how much persons had to pay in VAT on bread basket items. I know, and the numbers and disparity were in the hundreds. Okay. Right? So it's like someone telling you something, but you can't always listen. You got to be careful who you listen to. Because,
and you could go check the numbers for yourself. Yes. The numbers will pan out if you put the right ones in the calculator. Yes. So when you guys first came to office, I know that you went through a period of paying off old debt, that sort of stuff, which in my view was smart, because if you take old debt off the books, you kind of give yourself some more ceiling room. Is it possible that with a budget now that has some surplus, which is more headroom, is it possible to see unsettled debts? The reason I'm asking this question is there are any number of people that walk up to me on a daily basis, contractors particularly, that say things like, oh man, we're still waiting on this payment at 6 months in arrears, or we're waiting on that payment at 7 months in arrears, we're waiting on this payment, they're paying it 3 months in a lull. How does this affect the relationship the Progressive Liberal Party as the government will now have with those kinds of people? Because those people, believe it or not, are your community generals. Yes. Right? And so Joe Bloggs own a little construction company. He got 6 people, Pookie, Plax, Platyped, and then he 2 nephews, right? They all work for him. Right. He is a general to them, though. Right. When you don't pay him for 2 months, right. Pookie, Blacks really even won't be there. Blacks just has come because Pookie tell him come, right? Yeah. And so now Blacks go and get into some idle something because he can't get the money in time, or whatever the situation is. Do you think it is possible that with this level of financial prudence and fiscal responsibility that we see from the Progressive Liberal Party, do you think that we may also see a meshing of a better or smoother relationship between those that engage the government contractually and the way the government does business with them, because there is fiscal flexibility now?
Yes, the government have different arms, and that's very legitimate. And I like the way you put it. I actually know someone who named Pookie and Plax.
See, people think I be making this stuff up.
But they're contractors. So, the government has different arms, and you would, if a particular ministry has a responsibility to engage contractors and then have contractors paid, it then has to go through a particular process. Sure. So the difficulty is often with the process and what was budgeted in that ministry and where exactly they're going to move, or they're asking for funds to be moved from to satisfy them. But every contractor is entitled to their money, and government do pay. Sure. We're just looking for an easier path to pay contractors that doesn't frustrate any contractor or any person who would do their money and on time. And I'm very big on that. I believe in a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. So they go hand in hand, and persons who are expected to have or to do so much, they're expected to be paid and paid on time.
Okay.
So this is one of the things that we're not deaf to, and that we are listening to, that we are doing something about. And I must commend the Ministry of Finance for finding ways, even when we go beyond what's expected, to pay people and to assure them that they'll get their money. For example, the school program, infrastructurally, we have done more in this term than in decades of work. Our schools were falling apart. Our children, teachers were in danger in some cases. And we had to not only renovate some schools, but in some cases just tear parts of the building down.
Okay.
Take out hollowed walls that were there from
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come, with rats living in them, you know, and give solid walls to children, make the atmosphere conducive for learning. So when a contractor looks at a scope and begins to do some work, he goes in and find out, oh, you can't just put a Band-Aid over this.
Right.
This needs a repair, a real repair or refurbishment. Then it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. You have to find, you have to make a decision.
Right.
Do I sacrifice and say, no, just patch it up whatever way you could and put people in danger, or let's solve the problem? I think that this administration is into solving problems, and anyone who does their research can see that we attack problems head on, and we also go in detail and do it right and try to do it right. And it's not a quick fix for many of these things, but we willing to take on the task.
The Prime Minister spoke in his presentation today in the Parliament about the ease of business, right? And you hear it. I mean, almost every single Prime Minister comes and talks about how his administration is going to make the ease of business better, et cetera, right? And now, look, of course, see, the one thing about having a surplus budget is you could use your imagination after that because you got money. You can start thinking about all kind of good ideas when you have money, right? And so the question now for me is the government going to begin looking into, because they're talking about revenue collections being up. I know that they had implemented the revenue collection task force. Shout out to Commander Bertram Boleg, who I think still leads that little operation. But in my own personal life, what I found is sometimes one of the hardest things to do in government is pay the government. Not because you don't have the money, not because you don't want to pay, but because sometimes the process to pay in is just not easy, right?
Yes.
It is almost like wrestling to give the government money.
Very frustrating.
Right.
And this, like I said, is a legacy old issue.
But how are we going to close
so
those
analog
gaps?
because we're now digitizing. Everything, as an educator, I was in education for 22 years.
Okay.
When I reached the level of a senior education officer, where I was responsible for postal responsibility. That's persons who do after-school classes, who do other extracurricular activities. Well, not sports, but like band and all of these things. I had to make sure that those persons were paid their monies for the work that they did. And a file from any individual teacher could be as large as a foot in height, right? And in any small case entry level, you may have a file with just a few papers for entry level teacher. But through a process like that, when you have the names of persons that have to be collected out of a registry at a different department, for someone who's been in 20 years, you have to collect their files, take it to a particular office. The files are you got to flip through pages.
Yeah, they paper files.
Right? So you only do, and where we don't measure, productivity through volume of work, then a civil servant can go home only have worked on maybe 5 files.
Right.
If you have a digital process where people can look in a system, and I'm kind of oversimplifying this for our listening audience, for everybody, So you have a digital process where you can look in the system. This eliminates all of that, where you can calculate how much work a person is producing on a particular day, because it shouldn't be hard for you to click on some buttons, pull up some people's files, get in their system, and be able to make adjustments and send out an order for someone to be paid. But if you have this manual process and you continue to do this manual process, you're always waiting for a document to come in front of you. And that document a page may drop on the way upstairs to where you are.
Sometimes digitization, Minister, I found, also retards the process when you don't put the correct people in the chain, right?
For training, correct.
Right. And so my hope, and this is what I thought because what I also haven't figured out yet is why haven't we increased places that I can pay government taxes to? Like, I mean, that's the new way of the world, right?
Right.
But for instance, the business license process. I mean, it gave grief for 2 years. And that's a digital procedure that you should be able to just go online, click a couple of, but somehow on the back end, we still got a woman that you need to call, and if you don't have a number, it's just gonna be a very, very disastrous time for you. You're not gonna get you, and it's just, how are we ensuring that when we implement these digital processes, that they offer us the kind of efficacy and the kind of ease that, because I don't largely believe Bahamians don't want to pay.
Yeah.
I feel like they only have enough money to attempt to pay once though, and at any point they run into a hurdle.
Yeah.
We have something else we wanted to go do with this money anyway. Government has to close that up. How are we closing that gap?
Training. The persons who we put in charge, we have to hold them accountable.
Sure.
But we can only hold them accountable. If you have a particular task, we can only hold you accountable if we train you for the work that you are doing and we equip you. So we're looking at all of the training levels, certification. The Prime Minister announced a Polytechnic Institute that's coming along. We are encouraging Bahamians. There are opportunities for training with the Ministry of Public Service and Department of Labor constantly at the National Training Agency. And we are trying to give people more access to this. So when we talk about moving this prosperity so that everybody can feel it, we have to make sure that persons aren't given a fish, as they always say, right? That we teach them how to fish. So instead of you depending on somebody to always come and show you how to do this, that, and the next thing, whilst you're on the job, we're going to train you so that when you go on the job, or retrain you so that when you go back on the job, that you're able to execute these processes in a time span. And you can do that at any level. That's what I like about training. If you look at some of the restaurants, they train on a time. You can go for, I could call the name Wendy's, right? You go to Wendy's and you have persons who are on a timer, and their performance is based on from this time the person gets an order to the time you give them their food, right? It's supposed to be a time limit with that. When we get the level of training and we fairly have our workers pushing out work that we want them to do through a digital system, then we'll see the level of productivity, and all aren't created equal. There are some ministries you get things right away. We want to make all equal to where you get things right, where you get your services right away. And training is big, and opportunity is big on us, expanding those opportunities. That is what this budget is about.
So I've got to again say my favorite thing was the training in maritime. I think you guys are going to do it through the LJM. LJM. I know that you all passed the legislation earlier in the year for the government to subsidize LJM.
They're very big in this budget.
So I want to publicly say I hope you all call Glenn Bain. Don't do it without Glenn Bain, because I know that he always had the plan for that. And I think it's magical. I do want to give the public an opportunity, though. Y'all got 10 minutes. I want to give the public an opportunity to engage you, Minister, because I don't want them to say that I bring you here and then I shield you.
No.
They like to accuse me of stuff like that, all right? So the phone lines are open, 323-7775, 698-0775, or 6. I've got the Minister of State for the Environment, Zane Lightbourne, in his blue suit. He's here with me. Feel free to ask him questions about today's budget, because that is important. And that is what we're talking about today. So, and let's try to keep it succinct, eh? Let's go to the phone lines, producer. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome to Freedom March. 323-7775, 698-0775, or 698-0776. The lines are open. So until they call, Minister, let's continue. I saw that there's also an expansion in hires for the public service.
Yes.
Police hires. I think I heard something about an expansion in the Defense Force Ranger Cadet program, etc.
Yes.
Is that more of a national security thing, or is it more for a youth development thing?
It's both. The National Youth Guard, I think, is for the first time ever. We presented early in this term, a National Youth Guard, where we involve youth in helping in the country, learning skills. They have opportunities for scholarships and for certification in particular areas. And it's involvement of our youth, because we find that the youth unemployment is the highest level of unemployment in the country, where we have brought record levels of low unemployment rates. The first time in decades.
Since 2008, you guys say. Y'all been
so,
throwing up plenty numbers today, boy. I don't know.
we getting people to work. And if you look amazingly, if you type onto the Department of Labor website now and look at view jobs online, you will see about 200 to 300 companies, private companies,
Yeah.
advertising that they need workers.
Yeah.
From anything from chefs and waiters and waitresses, and the Bahamians, some young Bahamians that I speak to or that speak to me about getting a job, some of them have never been on that site.
Wow.
And some of them have never even walked into a restaurant in the neighborhood to say, hey, do you have a job
yeah,
for me?
yeah.
Can I apply?
Yeah.
Because case in point, in the constituency of Yamagra, we had one of the biggest job fairs in partnership with the labor on the blocks, right, Department of Labor. And we had hundreds of people, young people come through. And you know, some of them were hired on the spot,
Okay.
same day. And they were hired by companies that's right in their neighborhood.
Wow.
They never took the opportunity to walk
go
in,
around and see.
hand in their resume. And so with that training comes giving people ability
Yeah,
to write
and some
a
exposure.
resume,
Yeah.
some exposure. And we think that when we bring the government to the people, the way we've been doing, very on the ground, very hands-on, very available, because you still have to work, even though some people want, oh, I want to be able to call
Right.
and talk to him anytime I
Right,
feel like.
right.
We still have to do work in order for this to happen.
Correct.
So if I'm sitting here just answering my phone
Yeah,
all day,
yeah,
I
yeah.
become more of a
My
receptionist.
cat died.
rather
He
than-
didn't show up. He's a horrible member of Parliament. Let's take a phone call. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome to Freedom March.
Hi.
Hi.
Good day.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Miller, and I'm for the special advisor for you, Minister. My question is, I heard them saying that they're going to digitize the government system where they keep track of the work that are done for the day. What about the older ones that are employed for government that are not computer savvy as the younger ones that are coming in? How are they going to keep track of what they would have been doing for the day? And the second question is, I also heard him mention that contractors are doing scope of work. How is it done? Like, isn't it something for a quantity surveyor to do?
No. So that's not.
That's-
I appreciate the calls, the questions, caller. So on the scope of work thing, it's done differently than that. Everyone is given a scope of what it is the ministry or department would like for them to do, and based on what it is the ministry is. So they call that a scope.
Fine.
Yeah, it's not a quantity surveyor
No,
scope.
I, as a senior master in a school, for example, I
Yeah.
did a scope.
Yeah, right.
So I would walk around. You look, you see some
Yeah.
lights have to be replaced. These ones weren't done. You
Right.
see some cracking, and then a contractor comes and bids on the scope.
Correct.
Based
On the scope, based on what
the-
you've asked.
Yes, what you've
And
asked.
so she also asked about how are you going to get the older people with the digitization process. I think you've answered that
Yes,
question already.
I think, caller, and as an educator, I've learned a few things about training. Training isn't limited to age, okay? If you are too old to be trained or to learn, especially when it comes to systems where you're on a job, I think that you have is only limiting yourself in your mind, because yes, there's some people who may have a disability or some hindrance to advancing, but you can always advance and you can always be trained once you're willing.
Yeah.
So if you're already working on a job,
Yeah.
right? You're telling me that what you learned in 19, however,
Is the only thing in
is
your
the
head.
only thing in your head and the only thing that can fit.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there's always, you should always be open to upskilling
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Because times have changed. I know that many old people, older persons, I would say, my father uses a cell phone.
Yeah.
He didn't grow up with no phone.
I can tell you that.
You understand what I'm saying? So that in itself, if he could use WhatsApp and be in groups talking, but he's sending,
Yeah.
sharing
Yeah.
stuff and sending
Yeah.
voice notes, that's a level of training.
Correct.
I think when we hear it sometimes, we think it's all the way out there. No, it's simple. There's a process that needs to be done. We have advanced in the world, and you should be able to, as a human, advance with it. You don't just become stagnant. So you
Yeah.
could use a cell phone,
Well,
so forth, so on.
I guess that's going to be your only call, eh? Appreciate you for joining us.
That time goes fast.
Yeah. I
So-
think you've done well.
Thank you. I had a good time. I always love the show.
I appreciate you for coming.
Thanks
Anyway,
for
don't go anywhere. Zane Lightbourne has been my guest. He's the Minister of State for the Environment. Spiritual advisor is with me when we get back on Freedom March. Welcome back to Freedom March. Thank you for staying with us. The spiritual advisor is with me, Bradley Rule. We kind of missed that little birthday segment, so we might as well go back to the birthday segment.
Let's do that quickly.
Let's do that so they don't kill us, right?
Because
And then we'll open the phone lines back up. I thought I would get more calls in with the minister, but you know.
We had them?
No, they weren't on the line when I opened the line. You remember that? When I opened the line, no one was there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, but we have I think either Leon Lundy or one of those coming on Friday. So you can feel free to write down your questions. We're gonna be
Leon
talking
Lundy
about.
coming?
Yeah.
Lundy, you start fixing the bridge yet? You better start before you come from.
Read the budget, man. What the budget say? Bridge in the budget? They have surplus now, spiritual. All they could do is build up a bridge.
Mama them say Leon ain't doing nothing for 100.
Oh God! And I see him in the Commodore touring big time stadium in South Andrews.
Mama them cussing Leon Lundy right now.
Oh boy!
Anyhow, it's gonna be a Friday. Leon cool though. He's good in my books.
Let me start off by sending a shout out to Miss Susan Palmer in Nassau Village from her daughter Walter Reyes. That's Walter's daughter. I like when Bahamian man do that to their children. They just name the children their name and then a suffix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else we got birthday shout outs for?
All right, so today we want to do a shout out to Brianne Finley. Special shout out to Brianne Finley. Congratulations to Brianne on graduating from the University of the Bahamas with a bachelor's degree in nursing. Wow. Outstanding job, and may God continue to lead you even to greater heights, or to even greater heights from your entire family. Okay? Great. Demetrius Clare. Congratulations to Demetrius Clare for graduating with all A's in grade 6 at NTA, coming in from his mom and dad, brother and sister, the entire family. Great job, Demetrius. Congratulations. And University of the Bahamas nurse, the oldest daughter, graduated yesterday. We don't have a name. We're so sorry. But when you want to send these things, I think somebody ended up sending this on my phone. I can't find it. But we congratulate you anyhow. The oldest daughter graduated yesterday from the University of the Bahamas with honors in nursing. Congratulations to you.
Wow.
I'm so sorry I don't have your name. But if you want to send anything to us for birthday shout-outs and congratulatory messages, the number is 323-7775. Just save that number. It is a WhatsApp number, and you can send it direct. Rather than send it to my phone, send it directly to the ILTV studio. WhatsApp number is 323-7775, and the producer will pick it up once he gets to work. So the line's open. Well, yep. Well, we got Tanya? No, we don't have Tanya. So are your dogs hungry and tired of low-quality food? Give them the best of Modernistic. We carry all the top brands. Taste of the Wild, Diamond Naturals, Victor, and Nutra at the lowest price in town. If you're on a budget, we've got 50-pound bags starting at just $49, and for a limited time, buy any large bag of dog food and get a $10 coupon redeemable on select dog toys and treats. And if you can't make it in, shop online at www.modernisticgarden.com, and we'll deliver right to your door. Your pet deserves quality, your wallet deserves savings. Shop in store or shop online today. Hurry, or for more class. Thank you, producer.
Thank you, spiritual advisor. Let's go back to the phone lines. The minister is in here, but y'all can talk to me. 323-7775, 698-0775. Hello, caller. Welcome to Freedom March.
Good afternoon, spiritual advisor. Good afternoon, Mr. Miller.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like to touch on two items on the budget. One on like the road paving, the priority development. Yeah, firstly on the budget. There's some sanitary products. I got a problem with that. That's paying for the mere fact that how could women look for free sanitary products when they go buy fake hair, bleach and glow, or I'm talking about tattoos up and the whole garment, right? And it's quite shamingly. I mean, like, how could women go so low to ask for sanitary products when they basically spend their money on items that are not really necessary?
But why should they have to pay for something that is a natural course of life? I don't understand that.
Why should they pay for something that is unnatural? They grow hair.
Yeah, so if you want different hair, you pay for it.
prioritization.
Yeah, but if you want different hair, you pay for it. If you want different lashes, you pay for it. But why should you have to pick up a cost?
And if you have money to pay for that, right, you should be shamed for the government to pay for sanitary products.
But not to pay for it, the sanitary products aren't free, you know, we're just taking the taxes off of it.
Well, basically, you're dropping that, you don't need to drop taxes on it. In fact, the government need to ban bleach and glow here, stop these women from tattooing the people. Let me tell you something, I ain't telling you no lie, right? The woman is so precious. Their bodies are supposed to be pristine and natural. That babies come from women, okay? The government is allowing these women to destroy themselves through vanity, okay? It ain't natural.
But
these babies, they basically like poison in the future.
Problem. I know that's a government problem, though. Like,
well,
what is the government supposed to do?
You know what? You know what responsible government does? Ban certain foods. You're operating all this medication, low taxes for more medication and stuff. You know, all the side effects combined, like you talked about the other day, right? Which you don't even look at, right?
Okay.
See, let me show you something here. Why the government don't be responsible and bring the right food in and ban all this artificial plastic.
That is a wonderful. Now, see, that is a wonderful argument. The government could consider that, but I don't know if the government could.
Processed food.
Nothing I love more than
processed food. All these stuff are allowed.
Nothing I love more than a decent tattoo. I also like a decent back tattoo.
The government could be spending our money. You know what they be doing? They be borrowing all the time. I tell you, I see so ashamed for us.
But this government is
1973. These man never stop, but they don't report prime minister and this and that PLTF and I'm not saying something here. All they want to do is just they don't have no shame.
But the government is saying in this budget here, we ain't borrowing a dime. We actually operating out of a surplus. That's what this government is saying here. So I understand what your anger is still about.
Listen to me, man. You have a whole show. This foolishness that we have to endure as Bahamians, right? Who in life can live in life and borrow, and be on their foot unless they have the means to be paying back?
Okay.
Right. Every single government.
But the government is in this budget saying that they ain't plan to borrow no money and they operate.
Well, they can afford to say that, but guess what? They can't borrow no money because we in the red. Okay?
But that's not factual.
Let's move on to this free food thing, okay? You know what? This is the next thing for election too, we feeding the children, right? You know what? Why are you feeding the children? See, the woman that's supposed to cook food home to know what they put in their children's belly. You know what? I ain't telling you no lie, right? These pots would cook out. You ain't know what kind of salt they use in it. You ain't know the artificial. You know what? People buy the cheapest stuff to put inside them pots to give to the children, okay?
Okay. All right, let's take another call. I'm not a proponent. I'm not a fan of. I don't really particularly. And you could ask about these things in my private life. Like, don't invite me to no breakfast giveaway. I'm not coming, because I think that there's no way to test, the reach on these things, and I think there's no way to shield them from abuse. So I'm anti-free breakfast giving away. I don't even really know what the purpose is.
But Corley, I think I understand exactly where you may be coming from. Now, I don't mean nothing by this, but I mean, when you look at me here on Freedom March, what you see is what you get. But you can imagine if men could have put on longer lashes, put on Indian hair.
But that's what they make it for. You know that, right?
Then I could change my appearance.
Yeah,
But here's the deception, though, because with some of these girls, when you go out with them, and they really look a certain way, but boy, after the outing and
early
they go
Sunday
home
morning,
and they try to wash all the stuff off, you're like,
where the woman from last night?
This can't be the same person, eh?
Yeah.
So I do believe that eyelashes, makeup, long hair, and tummy tuck girdle and all that kind of stuff is a deception. So women are living lies then.
Spiritual advisor, you and homeboy.
Be natural, ladies. I think that's the message. I don't know if he, but I've seen it. Yeah, when they go out, boy, they look good. And when they take off that mascara,
and I with them,
and all that lash and that makeup and lipstick, and when they take off that Indian hair, and you got a different.
Why person. You keep going to places where the girls dress like that? Where I just go to girls is be natural.
With a natural beauty, Don't need no makeup to be a cutie, okay? She's a queen.
Man, let's take one more phone. This spiritual advisor. Please take me to the phone.
Welcome to Freedom March. Call you live.
You there?
Are you there, caller? Are you there, caller? Welcome to Freedom March, caller.
323-7775.
So all the women hang up, eh? Y'all can call back. I'm only joking.
The spiritual advisor.
I love my
I like
girls.
me a little tattoo here and there now, depending on where you put it. I am not anti that. So I want to make sure.
And y'all stop going down to the Dominican Republic, eh? This lift.
Well, how they can get the horsey teeth?
Liposuction.
You have to
This
go for
expansion.
The teeth. You have to go for the teeth.
Stop it.
So
Welcome to Freedom March, caller.
They don't go for no shrinking in?
In the words of Hubert Ingham, stop it. Stop it.
Oh,
Stop
boy.
it. Stop it. Welcome to Freedom March, caller. You're live. Are you there, caller?
Something must be happening with this
All the
phone.
women hang
What's
up.
happening?
Hey,
What's happening, you are?
Good, we here. We can hear you. What's up?
Well, look here, I must have called somebody named wrong yesterday. I got to correct that. The big bad number 2 in Canada. I give it you a shout out.
Okay.
Now, spiritual, I will leave out today. Why y'all don't stop you and people and I'm going to stop freaking out that for?
What's that?
Everybody got a right to decide, you know, how more yesterday like that.
Yeah.
The check warrant long here, let him there.
Yeah.
If the pastor won't put up all kind of rules and things when he called for, but the congregation there, all that in there. You know, you mark on your knee and you hold that. You understand? And with the budget, where they get that fund overage monthly one.
Where they get the what? The overage?
Yeah, where they get that.
Spiritual advisor said that's because they wouldn't pay none of the landscaping contractor. That's how come they got so much money. That's what spiritual tell me.
What do you say? What do you ask?
Where they get the surplus from.
But see, the thing is, you know, we got to ask ourselves this question. If the government said that the budget, I think that's being deceptive, right? Because guess what? Do you know how many outstanding bills the government have right now as we speak?
But all I mean is they calculate their bills, and when they calculate their bills, hold on,
the man got $20 million outstanding. You gave him 2.
But let me ask you a question. Caller, you still up?
$18 million to give him.
Do they not say that they have what is it? Oh God, something $0.44 million in recurring expenditure? Well, recurring expenditures, they're bills, no?
Yeah.
So that means they then calculate their bill spiritual. So if the government owe you money, June 1, you should be straight.
I don't know, man. I think the surplus is being
They owe you any money?
They did at one point, but they paid me.
So what you talking about?
Well, what about John?
They get the surplus from. They get the surplus from the carbon credit money, but they can't talk about.
Wow.
That's where they get that from. He never had no surplus budget like that. I'm telling you that. Where the money come from?
Brave say you only never had Brave in 10 years.
We never could have balanced the budget.
You all should have go get Brave.
The budget's never balanced, so I don't know what they're talking about there.
I wouldn't want to tell you, but I'm additive means I want to add on to that Brave. But I can leave that right there.
All right, caller.
Thank you, Ghetto News.
Thank you very much.
GNN, thank you.
I actually want to send 2 more shout outs, Spiritual. I don't know how I forgot this. Man, if anybody know Captain Whitfield Neely, you know that person?
From the Defense Force?
I have never seen... Show the picture of Captain Neely hosted Burnham 1 year ago. Look at it. 1 year ago, this is what stood at the... I think it's number 27, Yellow Ella, right? And I remember thinking to myself, there is absolutely no way Cap could come back strong from this, because at 65, if my house burns down, I will tear off all my clothes and I will roll over naked in the road until car hit me. I wouldn't even try no more. But I got a call from Captain Neely on yesterday, and he said, my brother, I want to tell you that by my strength, the kindness of a few Bahamian people, and more importantly, by the grace of God, I finished my house. And I mean, it just looks so glorious. It has wonderful plush windows, wonderful, what do you call those things? Window trimmings, and it's just such a, and I can't, but that at 65 years old.
The house is being rebuilt now?
This is the house.
Really?
Take me back to the Buena Post.
Wow.
1 year ago. And the year ain't reached yet. Day after tomorrow makes 1 year.
And that they have turned this into that?
Show me the other boy in the picture. There's two boy in the picture. Show me the two of them.
Wow, that's beautiful.
This was when the tractor come and tore down only the corner post of this house. And I remember sitting there with him the night that the excavator was there. And I never said it to him, you know, but I said to myself, at 65, I'm not really sure if there is a way to come back from this. He had just retired from the Defense Force after 46 years. I mean, you know, if his wife had left, he could sing a country song, right? Because that would have been the only thing that would have made this sadder. But I got a call yesterday. Skipper, I have to salute you publicly, sir. I got a call yesterday and he said, Levin, I'm calling you to tell you I'm happy to report that my house is finished. This is such a wonderful house. And I said, wow, what an amazing guy. Captain Midfield Needy. He's one of my favorite people, by the way. So Skipper, wherever you are, congratulations on the completion of your new house. Who does get a new house when they're 65? Isn't that wonderful? He must live to be 90.
Well, God has blessed him, my brother.
Indeed. And it's such a wonderful thing. I just wanted to shout him out today. Oh, and I also met a wonderful woman who's always so nice to me, spiritual advisor. And she always says, I listen to the show every single day. And I can't get enough of you and the spiritual advisor. And so I said to her, I'm going to make sure that when I go on air today, let me make sure I get her name. Miss Santilli, that's her name. Let me get it. Her name is... Did I send it to you, producer? I don't know. Let's take a phone call till I find the name. 323-7775.
Welcome to Freedom March Call. You live. Are you there, caller?
No?
All right. So yeah.
I got it. Her name is Sheila Santilli from the Sea Star Garment Manufacturing T-shirt depot on Key West Street. And she's always so kind to me. Every single time I go there, she's so kind. And she's such a fan of yours, spiritual advisor. So I told her I would shout out today. Sheila Santilli, thank you for watching. Thank you for always, you know, showing up.
323-7775 is the number to call. 698-0775. 698-0776. Welcome to Freedom March Caller. You're live.
I hear the phone ringing, but I don't hear any voices.
698-0775.
Hi. Okay. I want to say kudos to the Davis administration. This is the first time I've ever heard of a surplus government, our government in surplus. And I think that's an excellent thing.
And you believe that?
And the fact that your parents who have to go to work early and doesn't have time to prepare food for their children, that's a plus on behalf of this government as well.
Okay.
I think they are doing an amazing job. And I pray God they continue to do what they are doing.
Which constituency are you in, caller?
I am in the Centerville constituency, and my name is Jodine Husband.
Oh, boy. That means you going with Jomo?
My member of Parliament, Jomo Campbell as well, because he's doing an amazing job.
Tell them
in Centerville as well.
Tell them because Jomo is like Omo. It is for all your tough jobs.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Sound like a PLP. Welcome to Freedom March Call. You're live.
She's just like Jomo.
A pleasant good day.
Hey.
Mr. Miller.
Hey, what's up?
Spiritual advisor. Good day to the Bahamas.
Good day.
So, spiritual advisor, it just dawned on me today that Mr. Monk is truly gone. And, you know, when I listen to this show now, and I listen to you, I realize that your spiritual compass is no longer with you.
Oh, boy. Why do you say that?
You know, because Rodney Monkey used to keep you in line, man. He used to keep you.
Okay, so where did I go?
From getting in problems.
So where do I go out of line? And I hardly make any comments.
Well, I mean, when you listen to a lot of your statements now, you know, and when you listen to you calling people PLPs and all that type of stuff
that is
now
true.
and everything.
That is true, because in this case, you're PLP. So what's wrong with that?
PLP.
Right.
Yes,
so let's not get into stuff like that, man.
No, we have to get into stuff like that because for me, you know, I like a spiritual advisor that has a spiritual compass that keep him in line spiritually.
So let me ask
you. You know what I'm saying?
If I call you PLP, what sin have I committed?
No, it isn't that, It is just that some of your comments, and then the thing is, you're always hitting out at the government because you and 8 different FNMs and 2 COIs don't realize that the PLP is going to win the next general election.
Okay, so okay.
That's only if the FNAs don't galvanize before that now, because I telling you now, if you see
all of the FNAs is going to vote PLP.
We ain't fooling with that. Play my song. Play my song. Play my song. I can feel the need to motivate my FNAs right now. If you are an FNA, wherever you are, I want you to, whenever you see those FNMs, you tell them, we don't want to be one of them no more because we is FNAs.
Cause we don't play. Come go this way and vote for the FNA. We are the FNA because we don't play. Come go this way and vote for the FNA. Tell them take the FNM, we ain't one of them. And the PLP is a gangster party. The COI is a party made up by just one guy. So if you wanna go all the way, come go with the FNA. We are the FNA.
And so the only way the PLP stand a chance is if you see the FNM give them a break, spiritual advisor.
Now, caller, if you look at this FNA jingle, whatever you call it, the FNA is accusing the PLP of being a gangster party.
Only Sylvanus Petty.
Now, see, this is where this is just foolishness.
How?
Just give me a second. What I don't understand with the previous call is this. How on God's green earth that you expect in the country of the Bahamas, where we practice democracy, for every single Bahamian to be a PLP? That is stupid and ludicrous. Mm-hmm. You will always have people in different parties.
Right.
So don't talk for talking's sake. If a person doesn't support the BLB, that's how it is, my brother. Except that.
Would you like to be a FNA?
But he's saying that my spiritual compass have moved because I may say something about the PLP.
Because he don't know what it ain't lead you towards the FNA yet.
You can't. Your head can't.
You can make you chaplain.
That far.
You want to be chaplain?
Wow.
We don't have a chaplain spiritual advisor.
Let me tell you what I can't stand. I can't stand people who don't understand that there's a balance in life. You're a PLP, that's fine. You can have some people who are FNMs. This man here is an FNA.
See that?
Then you got some COIs and you got some DNAs or whatever.
You can't be a COI. That's a conflict.
Well, whether you want to accept it or not, there's some people there who identify the party. Anyhow, I just thought I'd let you know that Bradley came.
Right. We got 2 more minutes. Let's take one more.
Welcome to Freedom March, caller.
Good afternoon, Levon and Levon.
This is Anton?
Yeah, Anton. What's up?
Yeah, this is Anton.
Hey. The spiritual advisors say use the most righteous man he know, Anton. I know.
I didn't say that because there's none that's righteous. But
the spiritual advisors say use the beacon on the hill that shall not be moved.
Hey, Anton is one PLP who don't lie.
Only in government though. When they're in opposition, he's get delusional. Yeah, he have the Hubert Ingram syndrome. In opposition, they horrible. What's going on, Anton?
Look, I just want to, I was watching the budget debate, the budget presentation this morning, right? And I just want to congratulate the Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Brave Davis, Casey, on presenting his budget communication this morning, which outlined a lot of good things that will benefit persons on a personal level.
Yeah.
Which is what we need to move more in the direction of,
right?
As the budget continues to unfold, right? We are moving in the direction of a balanced budget, right? And I heard you, Miller, right? And I appreciate your position. And so what I would add to that is, as we move in the direction of the balanced budget, I would encourage the Prime Minister to spread the wealth and ensure that everyone in the country feels the wealth.
And pay contractors. Because pay contractors, because I tell you, the best
Absolutely.
way to get your what you call it hand to you is to have. You have to remember now, contractors are constituency generals.
Absolutely.
And you might say, oh, the contractor could wait, but the contractor responsible for Pookie, he responsible for blacks, he responsible for twine up head, he responsible for Pookie's sister. Don't forget, Pookie got at least one pair of soft hands. He got it, and all these people waiting on one contractor to get paid.
And what I would add to that, Miller, is, you know, we promised on the campaign trails that we were going to create multiple multi-millionaires. PM, let's make that happen before we go to the election.
All right.
Let's make that happen.
We got to wrap it, Anton. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, call us back tomorrow,
Anyway, and I
Anton.
hope you all call Captain Glenn Bain for the maritime training. Trust me, that's the best way to go. Take my advice that free. Anyway, Spiritual, that's our time. See you again tomorrow.
If it's the Lord's will.
Right here on Freedom March.